Gathering of the Moon Tribe. What is the Moon Tribe? This symbolic name was suggested by my illumined mentor, Thoth, to signify a state of mystical connectivity between all women on the planet. Yet the true meaning, as I receive it through the Thothic streaming, cannot be contained in a single sentence. It is not just women connecting mystically in deep spiritual attunement with one another. It is an actual alchemical union of women that comes about when they share that mystically connected moment. What they are capable of viewing, being, and doing suddenly dives deeper and becomes a power of its own, like a scent being released from the inner sanctum of a flower opening to the sun. This is a natural and essential function of the divine feminine when it is incarnated in the female embodiment. It is the greatest gift a woman gives to the earth and to her human race. It is even greater than the gift of birthing life, for human life could not come from her womb without the fluid alchemy of her spiritual union with the feminine current of the earth, where at her side all her sisters are also dipping into the well. From the phases of the moon, women not only receive the blood for growing life, but the blood consciousness that extends their mystical being into past and future generations. Women giving birth in the past, the present, and the future are all midwives to one another through the cord of the inner moon in their hearts. Thoth has revealed to me that males have one seed point or node in the heart, whereas women have 3. This does not make women superior to men. It is merely a necessary difference, just like the other necessary differences between men and women. Now I would pause here in the reading of this, which I wrote some years ago, that I have also done recently a series on the feminine heart pool called the Heart Arc, which you can access through my portal membership. And this tells a little bit more about that. 2 of the nodes or poles in the female heart form a resonating cavity between the 2 that holographs the Gaia field. Thoth refers to the 3rd feminine heart node as the diaton or heart moon. It allows the female to become the vessel not only for a child, but for the perpetuation of the creatrix current through the species. One could symbolically see the creatrix as a giant woman sitting on a simple throne with many children of all races on her lap and climbing up and down her skirts. Around her seated form is a circle of women, again from all races, ages, and creeds. These females each contain a clay vessel from which they are continually pouring at her feet and into the earth the essence from their moon hearts. Thus, even females who have never borne children, who are not yet experiencing moon cycles or have left those cycles behind, are still part of the moon tribe, for they all are born with and will leave this life with the moon heart inside them. Now, before we continue with the reading of this, which I wrote probably around 2004, when it speaks of the blood line, the blood consciousness that the female brings through her womb and into her birthing cycles, menstrual cycles and birthing cycles, we know now, according to Thoth, that the red road path, the path of the blood generational path, is now being infused more and more with the white stone path. That is the path of grace, the path of the higher universal Christic consciousness. And as such, where's the woman's role in this? Well, that probably will be a whole nother series, or at least another video, perhaps at the end of this series. I'm not sure. I don't want to get off track right now, but let me just say at this moment that the female is being prepared for a new form of birthing that actually supplants carrying a child in her womb for so many months and bringing it through the birthing portal of her body. Not that that isn't a sacred and beautiful act, but it's physically dangerous, it's physically painful, and it takes a lot of time. And then you have a little baby that has to be raised and fed and clothed and groomed and nurtured into adulthood. All this takes linear time. And there are a lot of things that happen. And the child has a lot of influences that cause it pain, difficulty in retaining its true purpose. All of these things happen as a result of the long process it takes from insemination to birth to infanthood to childhood to maturity. All of these things that are part of our world now. As the woman, as the female, and the male too, because of his insemination role, develop a further energy spectrum, into a further energy spectrum with the pyramidus radius matrix, which is that platform we will enter before we actually translate or ascend into the new Earth star. In that period of time, we will be learning. I say we. I probably won't be alive by then in this body, but I'll be there, because those souls who are not incarnated in the flesh, when people start moving into that spectrum, they will start coming in to that matrix. Not everyone. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Everyone's going to be included in the new Earth star that wishes to be, that gives their soul to that purpose. But there may be, in the pyramidus radius matrix, there will probably be just souls who are working with those principles and helping to guide those that come back through. And I quite frankly feel that I will be there. Maybe not, I could be wrong, but I feel that strong presence that will be a fact for me. But in any case, many of us will be there, whether we're embodied, incarnated as we're moving into that pyramidus radius, or whether we come back to do so. Kind of got off my point, though. My point is that there will be a new way of bringing souls through the feminine portal into a physical embodiment. It won't be an impersonal way. It won't be in chambers somewhere. It will be through a heart-centered male-female unity. But it will be different, and it will not require the time, the physical discomfort, and the chances of things going wrong along the way, and all of this time that this child has to grow into adulthood. All of those sorts of things will be eliminated, and yet it will be a truly beautiful, natural, organic experience. Right now, that's all I can say about it. That's all I really know about it. I'm just injecting it at this point in this dialogue. So, that said, let us continue. I'm now going to quote from a UCLA study on friendship among women by Gail Berkowitz. Now, this was put out on the web around 2004, and it states, I'm quoting now, "It seems that when the hormone oxytocin, yes, oxytocin, is released as part of the stress responses in a woman. It buffers the fight or flight response and encourages her to tend children and gather with other women instead. When she actually engages in this tending or befriending, studies suggest that more oxytocin is released, which further counters stress and produces a calming effect. This calming response does not occur in men," says Dr. Klein, "because testosterone, which men produce in high levels when they're under stress, seems to reduce the effects of oxytocin. Estrogen," she adds, "seems to enhance it." Now, sounds like the men are getting a raw deal here, doesn't it? But actually, what this is programmed for in our real-time Earth experience goes back to our primal beginnings. Now, here we get a conflict of energies, because, not conflict, but it's kind of difficult to explain, because we have a primal part of us that's connected to the Earth. We also have the greater part of us, which came through what Thoth calls the lotus reality, human, but a higher form, evolved in a different way, coming through and coming into life experience. So those two genetic fields have come together. The more primal genetic field was a manipulated one. You know the story, the Anunnaki and the slave business and all of that, and mining for gold, all of that stuff. I don't know how much of every detail of that is actual fact. I do know that Thoth agrees with the basis of it. But that's not the whole story. And the whole story includes, the biggest part of the story includes us coming down from the lotus reality as evolved human forms and working in those forms. However, as time progressed and we were in that level of lower creation, because we came down into that level, we chose to do so. Long story, won't go into it here. We became involved with things that go on the Earth, and one of those things were these Anunnaki fellows that were grabbing the ape-like species and creating slaves out of them. And they said, this isn't working very well. We need some better genetics to put into this pile. And that's when they went to the golden ones, to the solar races. And they said, we want some of this to mix with some of that. Another long story how they got it and how they did it. But we are the result of both. And we're mostly the result, most of us, of the higher evolved genetics. Now, this is a touchy subject because it sounds like I'm saying, oh, well, some of us are better than others. That's not what I'm saying at all. It is a process that we're all in together. We have incarnated in various degrees of this mix many times over. And the lowest of the mix, lowest meaning the most primal of the mix, is not the least spiritually connected. We're all spiritually connected. And we all choose to make those spiritual connections stronger or weaker. Whether we're out in the outback of Australia with a bone in our nose, or we're sitting in a suite in New York. The guy with the bone in the nose might have a much stronger connection. The person sitting in New York and has all this beautiful body and everything, and they look so perfect, and they have a lot of this illumined genetics in them. But it's not leading them to their true illumination. Why? Because you cannot get there from here. You have to turn on the sequencing codes in your being to be able to collect the dew, the nature of this essence. Whether you're an Aboriginal or you're some, highly geneticized person that's just, has all these codes and things in their being, if they're not turning on those codes, it doesn't help them at all. The Aboriginal might have fewer of the codes, and he's turning them all on. So who's the most illumined here? So you see, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of complexity in understanding how this works. But we as a human race are drawn to this highly illumined physical persona. And that's where all this, I'm better than you are, your religion's worse than mine, your race is lower than mine stuff comes from. Because we're all mixed up about all this stuff. Okay, so I went off on another tangent, so I'd like to get back to this. But I really didn't entirely go off the subject, because the female embodied woman, and souls have been males and souls have been females. The males walking around now have almost certainly been females at times, and the women have almost certainly been men at times. We're talking about a female incarnated body with a soul in it. And those women have the connection through the three-heart pull, the heart arc, that allows them to pull through the highest potential for their child that is in their womb. I don't care who this child is, what race it comes from, what nationality it comes from, whether it's born in the poorest of ghettos or the highest of mansions. That baby, when it's in the womb, has that incredible potential within it that comes from, and I'm going to go back and look at that word again. Where is that word that was given here? Well, here it is. It's called diaton. The third female heart node is the diaton, or heart node. It allows the female to become the vessel, not only for a child, but for the perpetuation of the creatrix current through the species. Okay, that says a lot. It also says that every child in the womb has that incredible potential for illumination. Whether it's Hitler when he was in the womb, or Jesus Christ when he was in the womb. So what happens? When they move through the birth canal, that is this defining moment when the soul chooses which nodes to turn on. I'm calling them nodes. This is beyond words in many ways. So let's say Hitler pops out with, not very many nodes turned on, and Jesus pops out with all of them turned on, because of their set purpose programming from the higher soul matrix. So you can almost say that, Hitler made a choice, but he didn't really make it when he was born. He made it when his soul was in another state, and it collected the experiences and the non-experiences, good and bad and indifferent, from all the things he'd had, and it compressed them, and it said, I can't go any further. This is all I have to give, because I've shut down all these portals in the past. This is all I have. So this is what I'm implanting into my birth theme. But when he's in the womb, when that soul is in the womb, that soul is open to become a Christ. But when it comes through the birth canal or cesarean, in either way, it comes out into the ethers, from the womb, and it comes into the oxygen in the air. That is the moment where it recognizes its program, its pre-created program, and it clicks it on. So Jesus clicked his on, and Hitler clicked his on. Does that mean they could never change it? Does that mean poor Hitler is stuck with that program through his whole life? Well, no. He could have made choices to change it, but a soul that was so deeply embedded, and I'm taking an extreme one, as was Hitler. He was so deeply embedded, it would have been very difficult at that point for him to turn it around. Not impossible, but difficult. So let's go back to the female. She carries through this one moon heart pole of the three the solvent that allows in the womb the baby to have it all until it's either released through cesarean or released through a natural birthing. When it comes out of the body, however it comes out, it's exposed, and then it clicks on that precognitive program that it created for itself before it entered the womb. And it created it as a result of all the things that it didn't do, whatever incarnations, etc., that narrowed it down to a particular focus. So another thing that could be said here is that when the female has the baby in the womb, the more that she attunes to it, sings to it, plays soothing music to it, meditates with it, gives it nice, warm baths, love, just focusing the love, petting it, kissing it, the male too, rubbing the tummy, the male kissing the baby, the male talking to the baby, all of these things going on with the parents. But because it's in the female's body, especially the mother, can actually help that soul unlock some of these closed codes and become out of the womb in a less constricted energetic position. Of course, things like taking drugs, massive amounts of alcohol, smoking, poor food, the mother feeling rejected or lonely or frightened or depressed, or maybe just not wanting to have the baby at all or frightened of having a baby. All of these things play into constricting the codes, keeping them locked into, or even locking them in even further. Okay, so I suppose I should move on here. Now, we were talking about Gail Berkowitz's statement about the men having the testosterone that, when under stress, it reduces the oxytocin, and for the estrogen in the female increases the oxytocin, and that is the relaxing substance, and especially when they come together with other women. Well, this is a process. The more relaxed the woman is, the more feeling of communion and home, the more the baby in the womb starts unlocking those compressed codes. Now we continue with what I was saying in this article. This would seem to support that the bonding of women is uniquely special. I have received that when women come together to share, work, or play, they are actually strengthening the circuit of the creatrix in the earth. They can also dissipate that circuit if they choose to gossip, judge, or harbor jealous feelings and thoughts toward one another or anyone in the process. I might add, making any kind of power plays, like women in political environments where they feel they have to strong-arm their way in, or they want more power, just like the man. They're doing this power play thing. That's extremely harmful for the whole feminine creatrix of the planet, whether these women are pregnant or even viable for pregnancy or not. I'm being guided at this time, when I wrote this, to open a potential path through my Akashic perception and understanding, through which many women may engage, synergize, and move and more fully activate their third pole node in the heart. It is, of course, one of many potential paths, but it is the one which my guidance is strongly indicating that I follow at this time. I'm not sure where this is leading. It might be why I'm pausing is because this part might be leading to when I created a forum for women to discuss these things. And this was way back in the Stone Age of 2004, when you didn't have the Facebook and all the stuff, and we had to go to this really primitive forum, and it didn't work out too well. So I'm going, is this what I'm reading here? But let me continue. Let's just see where it goes, because I haven't read it in a long time. This scroll is opening for me in an ongoing way, so that I do not see the whole of it as I write this, nor will I most likely until I feel complete with this offering to myself and to others. It is beginning with a focus on the female incarnate, but it is my feeling that it will be all-inclusive before this journey is completed for me. I am also balancing the work I offer in the lunar mysteries with that of the solar mysteries, both being inherent in male and female genders. Yet when we seek to know the moon heart, we must come to place our ear upon the bosom of the mother incarnate, in the beat of the mother's heart, so the child is synchronized to its universe. The beat of the female heart carries the charge of the moon heart, in concert with the two other nodes, creating a holy trinity of dimension and the natural rhythms of the child in the womb and suckling at her breast. More than anything else, the divine feminine incarnate in the female body is a living conduit through her moon heart to create and sustain bridges of light between times, spaces, and dimensions. Her incarnated forms in these realms respond by offering their gifts for humanity back across that bridge. in this dimension or electromagnetic zone of the planet. This exchange is largely an unconscious one, greatly hindered by the various factors of our world environment and in the interior environment we create for ourselves. It has become my personal revelation that the three-pole Gaia and Moonheart combination was the central mystery of the divine feminine as it was known, perpetuated and symbolized in Lemuria, Atlantis, and in the women's groves and the temples of Great Britain and Egypt and other locales on the planet just after the Atlantean deluge. I believe that if small groups of women came together energetically and in agreed communion to synergize and work with their Gaia fields and moon hearts, and this includes intentional communion with groups of women in other earth dimensions of past, present, future, and alternate, that a major shift can take place in the balancing of the male-female poles in the planet and in the world consciousness. This shift would positively affect both sexes and indeed all living things and the environment in which they exist. I see Gaia herself as an incarnated being, much like my image of the mother with the children climbing upon her skirts and upon her lap. We, as the wise women who circle her and pour out the elixir of our moon hearts at her feet, create holy ground for the future generations of this planet. We are doing this already. I am exploring one aspect of that service and how it may further actualize through the lunar mysteries I offer. Well, I don't even remember what I was exploring at the time, but, you know, this is fertile ground here. And perhaps there's something I should do with it now. I don't know. But I wanted to share this with you as the first installment of my Rite of Avalon series. So, I thank you for listening, and I will conclude here with this part.